Tonight, a special Monday edition of 48 Hours looks at the murder of Carol Kennedy. She was an artist, therapist, and at 53, a divorcee. Kennedy was found beaten to death at her Arizona ranch. Police immediately turned their attention to her ex-husband, a well-established stockbroker.
But there was no forensic evidence tying Steve DeMacher to the crime. Correspondent Maureen Maher has been covering this story for 6 years to find the end of the trail.
July 2nd, 2008. The serenity of a warm Arizona night was shattered by a panicked phone call to 911.
I was on the phone with my daughter, and she screamed and said, "Oh no," and the phone's gone dead. Can you go check?
And next thing you know, the police arrive. Somebody looks through the window and sees a dead body on the floor, sees blood all over the place.
Lying in a pool of her own blood was 53-year-old Carol Kennedy, savagely beaten to death.
I'm a private investigator. I was hired by 48 Hours to look into this case. This was a passion crime. This was clearly somebody who knew her.
Carol Kennedy, an artist, was recently divorced after a 25-year marriage to a successful stockbroker, Steve DeMacher. They had two beautiful daughters, Katie and Charlotte. Jan Wheeler lived across the street and was quick to point the finger at Carol's ex-husband.
He's the only person that hated her. No one else could do that to her.
Some thought the high-earning financial advisor was an unlikely suspect, and his family quickly came to his defense.
Steve couldn't do this to anyone, certainly not to Carol, not to the mother of his children.
But for the cops, DeMacher was the only viable suspect.
I wasn't there.
DeMacher had a weak alibi for the night of the murder. Carol's substantial life insurance still listed him as a beneficiary, and Carol's friends were telling police that the couple's divorce was far from amicable.
He was absolutely furious that she would have the nerve to do anything against him.
But clearly, Carol had finally had enough.
Towards the end, she was like, you know, I think I've counted 17 affairs he's had. The first one that she was aware of was her midwife and he were sleeping together while she was pregnant.
But authorities couldn't find any physical evidence tying Steve DeMacher to Carol's murder. His lawyer says his arrest was a rush to judgment.
It's always the husband. If it's not him, who else is it?
DeMacher told 48 Hours from prison that he is not proud of the way he acted, but that doesn't make him a killer.
I regret the mistakes I made during my marriage, and it has nothing to do with any capacity for murder.
Caught in the middle are the couple's two daughters. They say they believe their father is innocent.
Has your relationship with your father changed in any particular way?
I mean, it's difficult to stay as close when you can't hug your dad.
And there is more, a mystery DNA that threatens to overthrow the entire case against Steve DeMacher.
What we do know is the DNA under Carol Kennedy's left fingernails is a complete profile, and it's not Stephen DeMacher.
Maureen Maher is with us from Chicago this morning. Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Anthony.
Maureen, if Steve DeMacher's DNA is not what's under Carol Kennedy's fingernails, then why is he under arrest?
Well, it really had a lot to do with the divorce, Anthony. It was a pretty contentious divorce, and it had only been settled for about 6 weeks at the time that she was murdered. So I think the cops have always said that as they looked at a very short list of suspects, the people in her world, he was really the only one they felt had a motive.
Well, he was a serial philanderer, but that's not exactly a motive here.
It's not, but if you remember during the piece, as one of Carol's friends said, 17 is the number that Carol counted, including the midwife that she was using while she was pregnant with their first child. So the prosecution always said it may not be the motive for murder to say that he was a serial philanderer, but it certainly speaks to character when he was that callous with Carol for 2 decades worth of their marriage.
All right, Maureen Maher, thanks. Sounds very interesting. You can see Maureen's full report, End of the Trail, tonight on a special Monday edition of 48 Hours. That's at 10, 9 Central, right here on CBS.